Blog Talk Radio. Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise interviews from Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia. You're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 8 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show today. We're meeting with Chris Larocca, the founder of the Crush Red franchise. And Crush Red is carving out a distinct niche in the fast casual restaurant segment, dubbed Artisan Fast. And we're going to talk to Chris about that in just a moment on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we got a great show.
Are you looking for a franchise that delivers? Businesses will always need shipping, and for more than 25 years, loyal customers have depended on Unishippers for reliable savings and exceptional customer service. Unishippers is focused on just one thing: helping small and medium-sized businesses save time and money on all their shipping needs. And as the largest reseller of complete shipping services in the country, we have the buying power to ensure that we succeed. The Unishippers franchise offers low startup costs, no equipment or real estate required because they're not retail, residual income, and a quality of life and work-life balance. For more information on becoming a Unishippers franchisee, go to www.unishippers.com and click Franchise Opportunities or call Franchise Development at 801-708-5822. That's 801-708-5822.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Franchise Interviews, where for over 8 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today. We're meeting with Chris Larocca, the founder of Crush Red. And Crush Red is carving out a distinct niche in the fast casual restaurant segment, dubbed Artisan Fast. Hi, Chris. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, Marty. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure, Chris. It's great to have you on the show. You know, we do so many of these shows. We've been doing them 8 years now, and we're at the point where we get a lot of requests for franchises to come on the show, and we said this is it. This is something really different. I mean, Crush Red certainly it solves a problem, doesn't it?
It really does. We've taken the fast casual niche and we've elevated it to be chef driven, and it's. Wow. As you said, we're in a segment, or we're developing a segment called Artisan Fast, and fast casual just continues to evolve, and it's a wide open territory.
Yeah, it really is. It's fantastic. We also like to ask our guests, where are you calling from this morning, Chris?
St. Louis. It's a balmy 6 degrees here today.
Oh, is it really?
Of course, I'm preaching to the choir with you, right?
Yeah, we're not that far from you. We're just a state away, really. We're in Pennsylvania, so it's just as cold here, and I think it's actually supposed to get colder tomorrow, believe it or not. So it's spring can't come soon enough, can it?
Well, it doesn't compare. No matter what happens, it doesn't compare to last year. So
it's true.
It's all downhill.
Right. That's true. It does not compare to last year. It really is something. You were there at the beginning, Chris. When this whole thing happened, maybe you could talk a little bit, about, how you got involved. You came up with the concept and describe the history of Crush Red.
Sure, absolutely. I'm a chef-driven restaurant guy for 30 years, and I was asked to join a large restaurant company, 200 restaurants, international, that was kind of stuck in the 80s.
Yeah.
And they wanted to, they were losing their franchise partners to new concepts. And, excuse me, and they wanted me to develop something that was new, was in fast casual. And this is 2004, mind you. So this is 10, 11 years ago when fast casual was really just emerging. And I spent 18 months between Los Angeles and Washington, D.C., getting inside of every fast casual I could and understanding how it works and where the opportunities were. And after 18 months, I developed a concept for this company. But all along, I was cherry-picking ideas for myself and just kept this concept, Crushed Red, on the shelf for about 8 years before I had an opportunity to open it. And we did. And again, I could go on for hours, but the foundation of the concept was to be where the other fast casuals were not.
Right.
The void being most fast casuals struggled during the dinner hour. They did great for breakfast and lunch. Their liquor sales were stagnant, and the finishes were not such that you felt very, very comfortable. You got in for a purpose, and that was to fuel up with some food and get on with your day. And I wanted to develop a concept that had this edgy Boulder, Colorado feel, very comfortable, with an emphasis on wine and beer and chef-driven food that elevates the concept. And so Crushed Red's it. We operate under this healthy halo of saving the earth one kitchen at a time. We're 100% sustainable. We recycle our compost everything. And unlike most of the fast casuals out there, again, being where the others are not, we serve off of china, real glassware, linen napkins, and we don't do paper and we don't do plastic. And it's part of that elevated experience, and guests appreciate it. And our pricing is the same as any other fast casual out there. So it really is eye-opening.
That was a surprise, too, Chris. I mean, when I was watching, because we do a lot of research, and, when I was watching some of the news clips on Crushed Red, I said, wow, it really looks expensive. But then, when I saw, in fact, I saw you on TV, mentioning that, it really isn't more expensive than the other places, and used a very strong word. What I get out of the, Crushed Red is it's really an experience, isn't it, that you get to actually watch, the servers actually make the food in front of you, and it just has this whole experience to it, doesn't it?
It is. It's a show, and we dine out to be entertained. Subliminally, we want that entertainment value. We want more than just, as I said, fueling ourselves with a meal and moving on with our day. But we want to do it. We demand higher quality, whether it's from our finishes, interior-wise, as a guest, or from the quality of food that we put in our bodies. And we want to do what's right. And again, at Crushed Red, if I don't care what I put into my body, and you and I go to lunch or dinner, and you're very, very aware of the planet and aware of foods and their origin, we're not in your face tree hugging. So neither one of us is going to be offended, but you're going to appreciate it for the values that we have. And I'm not going to feel like, oh my gosh, is this a throwback from the 1960s, Haight-Ashbury. We appeal to a broad audience, but we also don't try to be all things to all people.
Absolutely. The name is very clever. I mean, when I first heard it, Crushed Red, I said, wow, that sounds like a really cool concept. What is it? I mean, how do you respond to someone when they ask you? You say, how do you describe Crushed Red? And who gets credit for the name, by the way?
I'm guilty as charged. My partner is an IP, an intellectual property attorney, and I originally wanted to call the concept Urban Flats. And he said, Chris, you can't do that because there's a company in Florida that has that name. I'm like, I respect what we're doing. But I wanted a name that conjured up an image, something, maybe a little sexy, a little, kind of what is it? And so So one morning, I think my wife was saying, she goes, oh, what about, crushed, like orange crush, something like that.
Yeah.
And being in the restaurant business, you know how when you go into a Mexican restaurant, they abbreviate everything. So instead of guacamole, it's guac. So in the business, crushed red is short for crushed red pepper. So it's funny because about 50% of the people that hear the name immediately connect to, crushed red pepper percent. They're like, well, is it like crushed red tomato or crushed red for wine? They don't know. But the magic is they're talking about it. It conjures up an image. And so we accomplished what we wanted with that.
You did, and I'm a marketing professor, so I love that stuff. And when I heard the name, it just had a nice ring to it. I said, "Wow, that sounds really cool. What is it?" And I think that's probably the question that comes after that. So I think you did a fantastic job with that. Your industry, I mean, are there numbers on your industry, Chris? I mean, I guess because you are unique. What kind of numbers are we talking?
In the restaurant industry, it's staggering. I mean,
it's in the billions. Yeah, I mean, more people are eating out today.
It's like $650 billion dollars. We employ in the restaurant industry over 13 million employees in the U.S. And there's actually, I think there's north of 600 billion restaurants in the U.S. So it's an impactful industry. And think through it. I mean, who do you know that hasn't worked in a restaurant, either as a career or or as a holdover until they get a quote unquote real job, which right now it's serious stuff. Careers, et cetera. So I've been in this thing. Gosh, I just turned 58 yesterday, and I started when I was 9 years old working for my dad. So
that's fantastic.
I say I'm not smart enough to do anything else. I was destined, but I love it. I absolutely love it.
Well, happy birthday to you first to start it off there, and also experience that is very important too, Chris. I mean, is one of the we've been doing the show now 8 years, and we've heard from a lot of big names in franchising and experts, and they always say to look towards the leadership of the franchise, and that's what I got out of you. This for you is more than it's not an occupation. It's an obsession. It seems like. You've been doing it forever now, and you'll probably be doing it the rest of your life, I assume.
No doubt. In fact, my wife and I kid. She plays the lottery, and she says, okay, well, if we win the lottery, here's what I'm going to do. And what if you won? What are you going to do? I said, if I won, open up more restaurants. She's like, you're crazy. You're diseased. But I would. I absolutely would.
Yeah, it is. That's what I got out of it, too, is you're very passionate about, what you're doing, which I think is certainly going to add to, the success of Crushed Red. Has there been anything that has, I'm sure you've had a lot of interesting experiences. Has there been anything that has stood out or that you consider like the most interesting since launching the concept?
Since launching the concept, we've really learned a lot, and we got into this thing wanting to control every little aspect of the business, every part of the process. Yeah. And interestingly, we started with an oven that we found at a restaurant show in Chicago, and it was so new. When we were bringing this thing in, the fire marshal was like, hey guys, I've never seen anything like this before. I don't know how to approve it.
Right.
And so we went back to the manufacturer, which was actually out of Sweden, and they really couldn't provide us with any specifications. And I physically got sick, Marty, and said, if I just spent $500,000 to build a concept based around a single piece of equipment, and if I get through this, I am going to manufacture my own oven and control every bit of the process. And sure enough, the fire marshal was just a cool guy, and he worked with us. We got open, and I immediately started out, and we manufacture our own ovens now here in St. Louis. But so that was a pretty impactful piece that came about it since opening. We didn't see that coming either.
I guess you never do you, Chris? There's always you always hear those great stories, and I think that story is going to add to the history of Crushed Red. Talking about it 10 years down the road, it's fascinating. I saw the ovens on one of the television segments, and I thought the ovens were fascinating. I mean, do you want to talk a little bit about them while we're on the topic?
Sure. It is. It's a double stack oven. In fact, I'm going to test tomorrow the next iteration, which is an electric version. But it's gas fired. Think about when you go to a pizzeria,
right?
And the pizza goes into this brick oven, and there's somebody that stands there most of the time with what's called a pizza peel, and they kind of move that pie around from the cool spots and hot spots to get an even cook on it.
Right.
Well, what we did was we put our baking stone, on a turntable, so it's rotating, and you can put the pizza in, walk away, and it'll cook evenly because it's constantly rotating. It's a 90-second bake, so from the time we stretch our pizza dough and top it, and it goes in the oven, it's exactly 90 seconds. It's like watching a fast motion camera where this thing's bubbling and browning. Very cool, and we will not, we don't sell those. That's proprietary to the concept, but it adds value to the concept, and you just don't see that anywhere else. You really don't.
Yeah, I've never seen it. Again, I've been doing the show a long time now. I've never seen anything like it, and it's the first thing that came out was, wow, that's a cool concept. I mean, it really is. It's very clever. What types of characteristics would you be looking for in your franchisees, Chris?
Well, obviously, I think you could probably tell, I'm passionate about what we do. Yeah. We want we want franchise partners that are passionate. I spent time with a company that taught me how not to treat franchisees, and I don't look at them as franchisees. We really, really view them as partners. But they're going to be the type of individual, that I want to spend time with socially, that I want to spend time with, that share the same values, that understand our culture. So that's maybe a little bit about the personality. A group, the franchise partners that we're moving forward with are committed to knowing that we are going to evolve, that we will constantly evolve to keep just a razor-sharp competitive edge over what else is out there. So they have to be fluid, got to be fluid. We have not signed any single restaurant deals. So what that means is an area development agreement. We're looking for a more mature and better operators than we are, ones that have operated a multitude of restaurants and will build out an area, for instance, rather than one-off. And obviously, all the financial pieces, the financial wherewithals have to be in place, and they've got to have the abilities to build. And if they hit a snag, they're going to have to be able to weather that storm financially and move on.
Sure.
We've said no to more than we've said yes to at this point. It's a very slow, methodical growth for us. But hopefully that gives you a view as to what we're looking for as far as the characteristics of a franchise partner.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it looked like you're moving into, was it the Denver area, Chris? Was that the most recent?
We are. We are.
Great
We've
location.
Yeah, they're going to do 6 locations in Denver, and they have Denver and Boulder, and they've got the right of refusal to do 5 more. So those first 2 will be open this summer. We're very excited about that because that's where it all started. This fast casual thing all started out in Denver, and
that's true.
They're very, very excited about it. And these guys came to me before we were even franchising, and happened to be looking for a concept. They were looking for a street taco concept, and we're visiting St. Louis, visiting their sister in St. Louis, and she's like, hey, you know what, let's go out to dinner. There's a really cool place that I think you guys you'll dig. And Jim is our franchise partner now in Denver. He said he set foot in it, and he said immediately restaurant guys can walk in and they can just see, is it buttoned up? Is
you
there a
can tell.
flow? What's the vibe? And, he sent me an email and said, I'm looking, are you franchising?
Right.
You were not at that point in time. And I was, this was a little less than a year ago. I was getting a lot of calls at that time.
Yeah.
And, you take time, you talk with people about, what their vision is, what we're doing. And more often than not, it doesn't work out. And I said, hey, Jim, if you're really interested, come to St. Louis.
Right,
lo and behold, 2 weeks later, he was in St. Louis, and it was the week that we finalized our franchise disclosure documents. Jim signed on, so he's going hard. He's excited.
Sounds like a Ray Kroc story. Someone walks into like a restaurant, they recognize the opportunity of Ray Kroc recognizing McDonald's, saying, "Wow, this is a great concept," and they weren't franchising at the time, but it sounds like it's going to go down in the history books for Crush Red. What I like about the whole thing too is your experience, Chris. I mean, you have experience in franchising. You know what I mean? So, you can relate to, and again, I know you don't call them franchisees, but your partners. You know what I mean? So you can say, and I think that's so important, isn't it?
No doubt. And we've gotten some great notoriety. People accusing us of being the next Panera, and we're like, hey, we love it, but we're staying very true to our pattern. We're proving out the map. Mm-hmm. We are going to our business model is we will not build anything else franchise-wise within 120 miles of St. Louis. We're going to keep that for company growth because the thought process is, how do you go out and tell a franchisee that you've got a new menu item, or you have a new point of sale, piece of equipment, if you haven't proven it out yourself in your own business? Right. And, you can't say, hey, trust me. That doesn't go very far.
That's true.
So they've got to see it, they've got to touch it, they've got to understand that you've got skin in your own game, and that you get it. So that's our model. In fact, I was on the phone yesterday with a lady in Edwardsville, Illinois, which is about an hour away, and she wanted to do a franchise, and I said, thank you, but we can't, and here's why, and thanks for being a fan. So we're staying very true to our model.
Yeah, and I think that's so important too. The success of a franchise, isn't it? It's the ability to say no, especially in the beginning. I understood, with, again, doing the show so long that it was, for some franchises, it was hard to say no to a lot of, people that they believe in your concept and they love your concept, but it's just, not the right timing or whatever it may be. It just may not be the right match, So I think that's so important. You've been involved in franchising and your industry such a long time now, Chris. Our listeners, we call them aspiring entrepreneurs. I mean, most of them have it in their head that, they want to get into franchising, but we find that most of them, they don't even know where to begin because there's so much out there today. What advice would you give to them from all of your experience of doing this such a long time now?
Oh, gosh. I mean, you have to work in the business. You have to, I would say, you need to have owned your business. You need to understand that when things don't go as planned, and they don't go as planned, what do? What's plan B? When you have a winter like we had last year and sales are down the tubes, and you've got to, how do you financially make it through? So I think it's critical that you've been in the business either as an owner or a multi-unit operator to understand everything that can go bad. Just because it will. Go out, get experience, and if you're a potential franchise partner, and let's say you've got a pot of dough and you want to get into the restaurant business, by all means, get an experienced operator. Partner with somebody that's going to have an equity stake, or going to have skin in the game, that's there for the long haul, that can keep you from standing or stepping on those landmines that are going to come up. I think maybe one of the last things I would say is don't have thin skin. I mean, things are not going to work out. Nothing ever works exactly as planned. Plan B, but you've got to be very open, for some hard advice and some hard direction, and can't be thin-skinned in this business, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I like how you said that too. Is you got to be open. I think that's so important for people. Is to be open to advice. Sometimes I think people get into the business and they're not open. They're just very closed-minded. And I think that open mind is just asking, experts or people like yourself. From your experience, what should I do in this case? What should I do in that case? I think that's very important to success. Because you're the founder of the company, I can ask you this question. So, where do you see the company maybe like 3 to 5 years down the road, Chris?
Oh, wow. We've got, we have a group in the United Kingdom that wanted to, they wanted to buy into the company. Wow. And we were far down the road. And, these guys are monsters. If I told you who they were associated with, you would immediately know them. And we got into some very deep discussions, and this was about 4 months ago. I finally just said, you know what, guys, I'm going to pull the plug on this because I think our end game and yours are not synced up. And let me tell you, that was a lot of cash we were talking about. But we're focused on the brand and the longevity of the brand and the culture. And so that's where we'll stick. So in 3 to 5 years, we're going to continue to open. This year, we'll get 2 for sure, possibly 3 more company restaurants open, and then we'll do a pace of 4 to 5 a year beyond that. The franchise system, we're going to get 4 or 5 open this year, and then it'll grow at a pace of probably 9 to 12 a year after that. So we see this in probably 4 years being over 50 units, and if we get a strategic partner on board, we could see it going much bigger than that. But we're focused on our growth, and, we'll just deal with what comes a day at a time.
That's fantastic. Well, I can't wait for you to come to Easton, Pennsylvania. I was telling my wife this morning, I said, I think you guys would do great here. And I'm sure everyone that goes into a crushed bread says the same thing, as either say, I wish I owned one of these, or, this would do great in my area, So it really is, it's a wonderful and great concept. And what's the best way for our listeners, Chris, to get more information on the franchise? Any websites that you'd like them to go to?
Yeah, go to our website. It's crushed-red.com. Okay. And there's a lot of info on there. There's a franchise button, and pretty much anything you want to know is on the website. And that's what I'd encourage the listeners to do.
Yeah, it's a great website, by the way, too. Very informative. There's a lot of great information on there, video clips and stuff like that gives you a really good idea, on who you are and what you guys do. So I think it's a wonderful concept, and I'm going to keep my eye on you and already invite you back next year as you continue to grow, Chris. I think this is a wonderful concept.
Marty, thank you for your kind words. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, Chris. And we'll be right back with more franchise interviews.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? For over 8 years, Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show, where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Who's helping build America one small business at a time? Franchise Inc., a free consulting service.
For years, Franchise Inc., a national company, has been helping people franchise their business concept and help folks like you own a franchise.
With over 2,500 franchise systems out there, it can be awfully confusing. Don't take chances with your future. At Franchise Inc., we've done the homework for you. We can help match your interest and background with the franchise that's right for you. And we only work with proven franchise systems with a solid reputation and track record of success.
The consultants at Franchise Inc. can help you with your short and long-term wealth strategy.
Give us a call today and we'll send you free our best-selling book, Solving the Puzzle of Owning a Franchise.
Remember, it's not just owning a franchise, but finding the right one for you. Call us at 800-961-0420 for a quick consultation to discuss what's important to you, your business, and your future.
The service is free. The book is free. What do you have to lose? Find the business that's right for you.
Call Franchise Inc. at 800-961-0420. That's Franchise Inc. at 800-961-0420.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi everyone, this is Marty McDermott from Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising, where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. You know, Don and I have been hosting Franchise Interviews, approaching that magic number 250, and during that time frame, you can imagine we've had some incredible quotes on the show. Last week we did a Franchise Rewind with Tariq Fareed, and Tariq is the founder of the Edible Arrangements franchise opportunity. And if you're new to franchising, or if you just started your franchise search, this will really put things in perspective as far as what makes a successful franchisee. So we're going to call this one the Franchise Secret. Do whatever this guy says, and I think you're going to enjoy this one. So, again, enjoy this edition of Great Quotes in Franchising from Franchise Interviews.
Diversity, too, it sounds like of your franchisees, Tarek, you know, in studying edible arrangements, you know, I mean, it sounds like it's been lawyers and accountants and just a nice mix, you know?
A very nice mix to a point, even to a point where it surprised us in the beginning. And I remember when we started franchising in the beginning, I had no franchise experience. I mean, I was a retailer, and I was making this product with my brother and delivering it. And you would have people coming up and saying, I want to buy a franchise. And, you know, Don could appreciate this because he's been here for a while. I remember talking to Michael Said and everyone. And, somebody would say, I'm a lawyer. I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. And so they go, wait a minute, you're going to go from a lawyer and cutting fruit? It doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
And then we have some of these people in our system right now, and they're very, very successful business people. And I have the utmost admiration for them to... where I kind of was hesitant, and I remember I always share a story with people that I had some people come in the beginning, and I was convincing them not to buy because I really didn't want them to fail.
Right.
And I thought they had good careers and things like that, but they turned out to be incredible franchisees where they own 5, 6, 7 stores, so they do great.
Yeah, this is a perfect example of if you just follow the system, no matter what your background is, and usually age might not have to do with it much either. Of course, the older you are, more experienced, maybe you have a little bit of an advantage, but really, you just follow the system, you train them and everything, a very high chance of being successful.
And that's really the secret. I mean, we do our discovery days, and I always try to share that with even the prospects. So whatever system you go into, there's a reason you're buying a franchise. And one of my most successful franchisees, who was our third store, I walked into his store after about a year of convincing him how to do it, and he always, he was a successful businessman before that, and he always gave me a bit of a hard time. And then, he kind of saw that we were going in a certain momentum, and he started to follow, and he sat in front of his whole crew one day and said, okay, guys, from now on, whatever these guys say goes. However they say it, we do it. We don't question it, and when their trainers come in or they come in, and he is the most successful franchisee in our system. He is single-handedly the most successful franchisee in our system. And all it is that as he's duplicated, his concept from 1 store to 2 to 3 to 4, he followed that simple formula. And, the burden was on us to make sure that we provide him the solutions, provide him the support, be it him, his managers, and from that he benefited. And he's, he may have 1 or 2 years of experience of running the stores. We had 5 or 6 by then. So that's exactly what it has done, and it does work every time.
Yeah, that's a great story, Tarek, because it's been a common theme on our show, Don, hasn't it, where we've had some of the most successful franchisees to some pretty big systems, and they've all said the same thing, Tarek, is all they did was just follow the system, They didn't change anything, and became very successful, So that's great to hear.
And especially if it's working, if you're getting on board a system that is working, that is growing, what do they say? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So
absolutely.
Why do anything? Just take advantage of it. And I always use that analogy of with some of our franchisees to say, I hate to take it down to this level, but it is kind of a kindergartner/sixth grader effect, where I've been in this building 6 years, so I kind of know every corner and the nook and cranny, and I know how the principal, what he likes and what he doesn't like. You need to learn, so let me teach you. So you're coming in, and then you see some incredible transformation. We have some incredible stories, and I'm sure every franchise system does. And the success that we have, it has to do with these great franchisees that we've had that have taken on and actually listened and applied some of the policies and procedures and technologies and other things that we created to make them successful.
I guess, Tarek, sometimes yourself or your staff, if you see a prospect maybe sometimes a little too entrepreneurial, I guess you really have to speak to them to let them know that it might not be a fit with your company.
We used to do. I remember in the beginning doing that a lot to let people know that I love your passion, I love your energy and everything, but you keep talking about your experiences and how you've done stuff. There may be a bit of a conflict there, or we may always get into a bit of a tussle. So you have to look at this. We have systems and standards, and we've experimented with these. We've actually mastered them, and we've proven them at multiple times. So you may want to turn around and try it a different way, but it's really not going to work. More, not necessarily only for yourself, but for the total success of the system, because there is consistency and everything, and we know what's going to work. So we have those conversations, but once you get to a certain number, a certain mass in your system, that comes up less and less. And I think there's a class of prospects or franchisees or new owners that start coming to you after a while to say, look, I want to duplicate what you've done. How do I do it? And they don't want to turn around and start from scratch. And that was great when we started to get a lot of existing franchise prospects, meaning they were in other systems, and when they came into our system, they found success very, very quickly because they had gone through those processes, and we gave them some tools that they did not have before, and they saw some benefits that they had not seen before, or had already gone through the process where we didn't really need to explain, and they turned their stores around very, very quickly.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. We'll see you next week with another edition of Franchise Interviews. Take care, everyone.